Hello, I'm Dan Rogers. Today we're here with the great Avi Lipkin from Israel. Avi, welcome.
Well, actually, I'm from Odessa, Texas right now.
Are you in Odessa, Texas, huh?
Good to be here. I was in Lubbock just a few days ago, almost made it to Amarillo, but I'm here. I'm here in Odessa.
Well, that's a good place to be temporarily,
Yeah, just don't breathe too deep.
right? But they produce a lot of good oil down there. So
You
we
know,
need,
it made me so happy as I was driving to Lubbock and back to see all those oil wells, just churning away and to see the little fire plumes, for the released gases. But
yeah,
it was such a pleasure to see America prospering with good oil production.
yeah, it is. It's great that we have so much natural gas, we just burn it off. But the left doesn't want us to use it, but it burns pretty clean.
So
So
burn the left.
yeah, yeah. So tell us what's going on in Israel. I hear there's some fireworks fired back up here recently. What's going on?
Well, I've been speaking about this every night for the last week. The Druze people, Druze, are the descendants of Jethro. And Jethro was the high priest of Midian. And so you might say to yourself, oh, well, this is old stuff. This is the Bible, blah, blah, blah. But it's unbelievable how all the miracles that are happening today in the Middle East were predicted in the Bible, were happening in the Bible, and they're happening right now also. And Israel has fought a 2-year war, and we are exhausted. And, when President Trump said that he wants a ceasefire, everybody in his heart of hearts said, praise God for President Trump, because we are exhausted. We have been bleeding because of this war with Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran, the Houthis in Yemen. And now all of a sudden, we see a war by proxy coming against Israel at the hands of the Turks.
Yeah,
The Turks are looking to pick a fight with Israel, and Israel is doing everything it can to avoid another war, another fight. We just, I don't want to say we can't take it anymore, because many times, when you're in the army or military and you say, I can't take it anymore, and the master sergeant gives you a kick in the butt and you take it. And so God is kicking us in the butt. And we have a problem in Damascus, and we have a problem in Syria. We have a problem defending our brothers and sisters, the Druze people, who are related to us, through Jethro and through Moses. This is a conflict of biblical proportions, and we are doing everything we can to avoid a war with, I wouldn't say with Syria. Syria doesn't exist anymore. To avoid a war with ISIS terrorists who are proxies for the Turks. Add to that Egypt, with whom we have had war many times, and from whom we had to take Sinai and then return Sinai 3 times. Egypt is saying that there will be a war with Israel if we finish the job in Gaza. And we must finish the job in Gaza. And if Trump is to have also his vision for the future of Gaza. So Israel is now on the cusp of a struggle now with Turkey and Egypt. Until now, we dealt with 7 fronts. We have 2 more fronts coming up now on the horizon. So I just hope that with the leadership of President Trump, we can head him off at the pass and prevent a war from happening with Egypt and Turkey. But what's happening in Syria is that the ISIS terrorist groups under Ahmed al-Shara want to annihilate all of the Druze, all of the Christians, the Shiites, and the Kurds. So Israel basically is the only good guy there in the Middle East to protect these people.
yeah. But I think the last time we talked about Turkey, right? And a lot of people don't think that they're a player in this, but I think you're being proven correct.
Well, I don't remember if we spoke about this, Dan, but I'm writing my ninth book now about Turkey and the Armageddon. And the book is called, or will be called, Lepanto II. Now, Lepanto I, in 1571, the Catholic navies of Spain, Genoa, and Venice sink the whole Turkish fleet in one day.
Mhm.
And the Turks were so angry because this was basically a sign of the beginning of the end of the Turkish Empire. And now what we see happening is the Turks are strengthening their muscles to attack Israel, to attack Cyprus, which is a Greek Christian island, to attack Greece. Uh, Turkey wants to reclaim all of the territories it once held in the Balkans and in Europe. So we are facing an imperialist, expansionist threat from Turkey, and they are very, very much a threat. They are a NATO member. They have nuclear weapons that Americans have stored there. So I'm really hoping that President Trump can rein in the Turks and prevent them from their Islamization program for the Middle East and for Europe.
Well, that's always concerned me because of those nuclear weapons in Turkey. You know, all they have to do is slip one over to Iran, let them use it, and say we don't know how they got it, right?
Well, I'm not afraid of Iran anymore. I am afraid of the Turks. And the Turks uh, may need some kind of a Gaza action against them, just as Iran had a Gaza action against them. All these crazy Islamic countries that are working to destroy Israel, they want to destroy America too.
Yes.
And I know that President Trump is a wise man. He knows what he's doing. I'm praying for him every day. I think President Trump is the best president America ever had, just as Netanyahu is the greatest prime minister Israel ever had. So we have to strengthen our leaders. We have to strengthen our national posture because the people we're dealing with have as their God, God with a small g, the devil. And the devil doesn't mind killing off tens of millions of Muslims, of his own people. So we have to be very conscientious, very methodical, and stop the Islamic juggernaut to take over the Middle East and take over Europe and America. America is also being taken over.
Yeah, they're a little more subtle about it in America, but I've had some people high up in the government explain to me that a lot of these things that are going on, whether it's the on the left with the gay and lesbian groups, the transgender stuff, the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, all that is really in the background is the Muslim Brotherhood. All of it ran out of Turkey. Have you heard that?
Well, I have to tell you, my wife Rachel worked for 30 years with the Israeli intelligence, and she would monitor their broadcasts, and she would monitor conferences that the Islamic countries were holding on how exactly to conquer the world, how exactly to destroy Christianity, destroy Christian America, destroy Israel. It's not just Turkey. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Pakistan, all of these countries are very, very active together. They coordinate their moves as to how just exactly are they going to take over areas which are until now not fanatically Muslim, but will be unless the U.S. leads the world with wisdom to stop the Islamic takeover. And so I don't know what I can do about it, but the little I do is just to speak in churches and small groups that will listen. I'm very sad to say that Jewish people are not really listening to what I'm saying. The Christians are listening. I kind of identify, forgive me for saying it, identify with the Apostle Paul as a Jew of the Jews, and they were not listening to him. We have a threat with Islam, and this is a threat which could destroy the world. And, you know, when President Trump won the elections, he won the second elections too, which were stolen away from him. But the third election, basically God sent President Trump to save the world from the destruction that the Democrats were creating for America and for Israel. And so everything must be done to strengthen the president, strengthen the United States and its military, and the Israeli military and the Israeli leadership, which, by the way, all are marching together in lockstep. Praise God.
Well, that's good. So I think, do you think the American media is complicit in all of this? Because they don't seem to be reporting a lot of the things that are really going on and are kind of creating a narrative to try to disparage Israel from what I've seen.
Okay, well, let me say something. I know the history of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things the Bolsheviks did at the end of the revolution, which they won, they took professors and they sent them to Germany in the 1920s. And this was called the Leipzig School and the Frankfurt School. These universities were taken over by communists from Russia, Bolsheviks. When Hitler came to power, these professors had to flee. Where did they flee to? They fled to America.
Right.
So the American universities have been hijacked by the communists since the 1920s. We're talking about over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Added to that, the Muslims are investing literally trillions of dollars into the American universities. And so now, here, take a look. You've got this crazy guy in New York City, Mamdani, who is a communist Muslim.
Yeah.
This is the synthesis of the two worst systems in the world. And so what we're seeing here is the media, all these people are products of the American universities, which were hijacked by the communists and the Muslims over the last few decades. And unfortunately, forgive me for saying this, both the Jewish and Christian leaderships of America have never really understood or grasped the meaning of communist and Islamic takeover of the universities. So who exactly are these media people? They are products of communist and Islamic takeover.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying there has to be a Christian revival and there has to be a Christian activism, which we have not seen until now. Maybe with Trump, it's just beginning. But we have to deal effectively with these crazy left-wing and Islamic-leaning people in the media. In addition to the fact that just, if you don't go through the internet into the alternative news, you have no idea what's going on. And right. And so what you and I are doing now and what our dear Brandt is doing is giving the alternative media. And I don't know if Brandt is listening. Are you there, Brandt? I think he's off somewhere.
No, I'm listening. I'm right here, brother.
You know what I said about you today? I was on with Pastor Jeremy Sutton.
Yes, sir.
And I said, this Brand Fricker and I have been doing Zooms every week for 3 years. And we are not paid, neither of us. We're doing this out of the love of America and the love of God. And so I'm just saying the media represent, how shall I say, a shallow, ignorant approach to what's happening in the news. But you and I, on the other hand, and now, of course, Dan is with us also, we are providing the public with the real news. And that's what's very important.
Amen. Yeah, that's why we're doing it. If we don't do it, who else is going to do it?
Exactly. That's the problem. There's a lot of people that talk about what they're going to do, but very few people actually do it. So we need patriots in action, right? That's what we need.
In action.
Yeah, I'm rebranding all of my things that I'm working on. We're going to brand it all under Patriots in Action and try to get people informed and to start showing up locally at their school boards or county commissioners meetings or city council meetings or college boards, any civic organization in their community. But everybody listens to the media and they focus on the national, but it's right there in their community that our country's being stripped away from them. So what I want to focus on is how to get people engaged at their county level, because we can take our country back, but we have to do it one county at a time.
Very correct. I also wanted to add something. I have an idea. It's like a pet project. I grew up in New York until age 19. And I went to public school from 8 to 3 every day. From 3 to 5, I went to intramurals sport. And then from 5 to 7 every day, I went to Hebrew school, where we were taught things which we were not taught in public school. And I'm recommending to the American Christian world to create a system by which American school children who are Christian are enabled to go to public school from 8 to 3, from 3 to 5 go to intramurals, and then from 5 to 7 go to Christian high school, which will give them the Bible and give them the real news in light of what the Bible tells us. And the Bible is predicting everything that's happening right now. It's just people don't know. And the news media people are totally cut off from the realities of the Middle East and the world today. So I think that if the Jews had a good after-school Hebrew system, and if the Christians had a good afternoon Christian system, we could. It would take maybe a generation or 2 generations, but we would save America.
No, I think that's a brilliant idea. But the churches have to perform. They have to do it.
And the churches have the facilities. Churches are not just for going to church once or twice a week.
Right.
The churches should have their lights lit up every evening, and kids studying and teachers teaching. And then you will have generations of champions, American patriots. That's what we have to do.
But you can't have a republic without a moral society. I mean, it's imperative that people have the concept of morality, of right and wrong, because if they don't, then they won't participate, and they expect other people to do it. And it's about honor and duty, right?
Yes, and I think, as it says in Hosea 4, verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And the problem with the media, I don't think that the media necessarily they're bad people, but they have been misproduced by the left and by Islam, and their knowledge either is non-existent or very shallow. And that's one reason why they don't really tell the truth. It's not that they don't want to tell the truth. It's also that, but it's primarily because they themselves do not know the truth. And so they don't know what to project, really, other than the orders they are given from above.
Right. Yeah, it's not your average reporter that's doing anything wrong, but they may do a good story, but their editors chop it.
Very correct.
And the reason that is because of advertisers, right? So it's Wall Street, who's focused simply on money, who's really manipulating the media. Well, who owns the media? Wall Street. So I think that's who we're probably really fighting, is the big business interest that effectively is taking over the country through the media, through advertising. And if they don't want a program, the advertisers say, we're not going to advertise on your station if you support that. So it's a corrupt system because of the lack of morality.
Correct.
So that's what we have to educate the voters about. I think what we have to do is inform the voters of what's really going on in a way that they can understand it, right? Because you can get it off in the weeds and make it complicated, or we can try to figure out a way that they can absorb it and understand it. And that's the trick, right? That's the hard part. But we can do it. We'll figure it out. And things like this and talking to people like you, I think people would rather hear somebody like you that's on the ground, that has the experience and the true knowledge, than they would any of these so-called mainstream media figures. I would.
You know, I have to tell you, the last few nights, every night I've been speaking in churches, not big churches, little churches, because the big churches don't want to hear what I have to say. They're afraid. They're afraid of the backlash. But, for example, in the news, they show a Druze religious leader having his beard shaved off by Islamic terrorists from ISIS. And then they kill the guy. And people don't understand, why are the Muslims killing the Druze? The Druze are very unique people descended from Jethro. And these Druze, they believe, now everyone's right to believe whoever they want to believe is the great leader, but for the Druze, it's not Muhammad. For the Druze, it's Jethro. Now, most Americans don't even know who Jethro is.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go back to the Bible and you quote the Bible. Jethro was a great man, and God in the Bible loves Jethro and his children. And Jethro, it's an interesting thing. Ishmael, we don't know where he's buried, but we know where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried. We know where Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are buried. These are the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Jews and the Christians. And we know where Jethro is buried. Jethro is buried near Tiberias in Israel, because he and his descendants traveled with the 12 tribes of Israel out of the Arabian desert into Israel, into the land of Israel. And so Jethro is a great man because we know where he's buried. He is so honored, we know where he's buried. We don't know where Esau is buried. We don't know where Hagar is buried, because these people were murderers. They were fighters. They were soldiers. They were men and women of the sword. And God finished them off. What did Jesus say? He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. And the sword is the symbol of Islam. These are things that people don't know in America. And because Jethro is the greatest of all the prophets, according to the Jews, they get slaughtered by the Muslims, because the Muslims say, no, Muhammad is the greatest of all the prophets. And that's definitely not true, because Muhammad was a very sick, epileptic person, murdered, raped little children. All these things are norms in Islam. And you see this happening. We had it on October 7th in Israel. Now we see in Syria, they're killing the Druze. And the Druze are our beloved brothers and sisters. They are a biblical people. They are a historic people. And Israel is going to defend them. The problem is that the Turks are pushing the Syrian terrorists and their leader, Ahmed Ashara, to spark a war with Israel. And so I hope that President Trump sees what's happening. At this stage, I think he's just trying to patch things over and prevent a major explosion. But Turkey wants an explosion. Egypt wants an explosion. And this is something that will threaten the United States in the end.
So they believe that Israel's kind of worn down and now's the time to attack, basically.
Exactly. And so, we are very, very upset with Egypt, because we have a peace treaty with them, and they're breaking the peace treaty with all the tanks and planes and soldiers they have in the Sinai Peninsula. And they get all their weapons from the United States. Actually, now the Egyptians are going out to buy weapons from other countries.
Well, Turkey's part of NATO.
Yeah, and so is Greece. But Greece is Christian, Turkey is Muslim, and they hate each other, and they may go to war with each other.
So how's that going to work out with NATO if that happens?
Well, Israel, as I said before, is going to sink the whole Turkish fleet in the Second Battle of Lepanto. And when all that happens, then an Armageddon war starts. The Turks are going to want to invade the rest of Cyprus. They want to disrupt the gas and oil supplies coming out of the Eastern Mediterranean. And then they want to block Israeli, Kurdish, and Christian aircraft from flying into the Middle East or flying out. The situation with Turkey is not good, and it's getting worse every day, but it's incremental. It's like the frog in the hot water, and he's being boiled. He doesn't know it till it's too late.
Yeah. So do you think this is coming from the people of Turkey or from the leadership of Turkey?
It's coming from the leadership. And let's put it like this. 50% of the Turks are normal people. But 50% where the fanatic Muslims are pushing their ideas on everybody else in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember also, southwest Turkey is Shiite Alawite, like in Syria. And they are hated and they are persecuted by the Sunni Muslims. And then to the southeast, you have the Kurds. and they are hated by the Turks, even though many of them are Sunni Muslims, and they're being persecuted by the Turks too. I would say in the end, maybe there won't be any choice but to dismember Turkey of the minority areas, because the minorities in Turkey are also 50%.
Mhm.
The thing is, nobody's talking about this in America. Nobody really understands the breakdown of what's going on in Turkey. There has to be a Kurdistan. Kurdistan is a country with 50 million Kurds, and yet they don't have a state. They cannot fly their aircraft out of Kurdistan without permission of Iraqis.
Hmm.
So I'm watching Iraq, all these fronts that Israel has been facing, we're watching them very closely.
Yeah, it could turn into a mess pretty quick over there. And I think the problem is we don't get that information out of our media. So I think and a lot of it's perception, because the people over here in the West, in the United States, we have a very short memory, extremely short. And we've only been around not even 250 years. But those people over there in those countries and they've been around for millennia, right? So they remember, 1,000 years ago, some battle, and they're still fighting over it. And that's what we don't have that perception over here. And I think that's a problem for us because we just don't understand it. We think everybody thinks like we do, and they don't.
There is a saying in America, it takes a thief to know a thief. And Americans are just so sweet, so loving, so responsible. When the devil comes into your midst, you don't know how to handle it until there's a big explosion like 9/11. And listen, I'm very afraid because 19 people carried out 9/11. And here you have 19,000 terrorists who came in from Mexico and Canada unvetted by the Biden administration.
Yeah.
We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are. We don't know what weapons they smuggled into the country. The United States is facing a tremendous threat from this now internal terrorism. And I imagine President Trump knows exactly what is happening. And he's trying to counteract that. But Americans are so blessed with this great country. Atlantic Ocean on one side, the Pacific Ocean on the other side. Canada is the best neighbor that America could have. Mexico, maybe not as great, but also Mexico is a good neighbor. And Americans just have every blessing imaginable from God. And after hundreds of years that Americans have been so blessed, they become complacent regarding the enemy that's coming. Yeah. But that enemy has been around for 1,500 years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the role that I'm trying to fulfill is to educate, at least in the small churches that will listen to me. The big churches will not hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's not good. Are they concerned about their 501c3 status, or is it just that they think that the people that are giving them the money won't like the message?
Let me give you an example. Everybody says to me, why don't you, Avi, go to the big churches? I say, listen, I go to a big church. 10% of the church will quit because why did the pastor bring a Jew to speak? 10% of the church will quit because I'm anti-Islamic and the Muslims are good people. Yeah, the Muslims are good people, but the terrorists come out of the Muslims. And then the third group will say, well, this AVI LIPKIN is a staunch Republican supporter, supports President. The moment you support President Trump, a lot of people are going to quit your church because you got these crazy people called never Trumpers. And so when a pastor knows he's going to lose 30% of his tithes and offerings, he says, what do I need this for? I'm not going to bring in somebody like AVI LIPKIN. So where do I go? I go to these small churches that are without any debt, where they're not afraid. They're ready to hear the truth. They don't have to change their carpets every year. They need big budgets. So, I go to the small churches. Listen, I've been doing this 35 years. This is not something I started yesterday. And, I was even saying today on GLC that I was there 2 months before 9/11, And GLC was criticized very, very heavily for bringing me because I was predicting 9/11. And then when 9/11 happened, Avi's a prophet. Avi's a prophet. I said, I'm not a prophet. I listened to my wife. My wife is an intelligence gatherer, and she gets all this information. And I would be remiss if I didn't share this with everybody. And that's what I'm doing.
So they knew about 9/11 before it happened.
Absolutely. My wife not received, she watched the TV in Arabic. She sees the TV announcers, and on the wall behind them is like a long calendar picture of the Twin Trade Towers on fire. And they're saying, we tried this and we failed in 1992, if you remember the truck bomb under the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. And we're going to destroy the World Trade Center. We're going to destroy Wall Street. We're going to destroy the American economy. We're going to destroy America. So that's what I've been talking about. And then 5 years later, 7 years later, the towers come down and everything I said was true. Not because I'm a prophet. It's because I listened to what the enemy is saying. These are the enemies of America. They are the enemies of civilization.
Yeah, they're just evil. It's evil.
Total evil. But you don't understand it because you're not evil. Because Americans are so good and so kind and so loving and so accepting, then these people come into the country, they do crazy stuff, and Americans don't have a clue as to why this is happening. And you can't talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it.
Well, I was on the phone yesterday morning with a guy in New York City, and he said they just there was a van on 42nd Street down below his office. He's on like the 10th floor of a building, and somebody ran into it. The guy takes off running, and there's like 40 propane tanks full of gasoline. I guess it was rigged up to explode, but it didn't work, right?
Praise God.
But there's nothing in the media about it.
I have to tell you something, and this is something I've been talking about for decades. So many of the 18-wheeler drivers are Muslim. And they can fill up one of these containers full of dynamite and ammonium nitrate and other stuff, drive it up to any major building in the United States and blow it up.
Yeah.
And there's so many guns that they could simultaneously bring down 20 aircraft in 20 airports around the United States all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm very concerned. I've been talking about this nonstop for the last 35 years.
So what can people listening to you do? What's the best thing that one thing they could do that would help?
Well, I went up to the policemen at the airports before 9/11, and I told them that they were going to hijack planes and crash them into the World Trade Center. And this was before TSA. This was just regular police officers. They said to me, "Oh, Muslims wouldn't dare to attack America." Because the police also, they don't know. You want to know something? Sometimes I speed intentionally on the highway to get pulled over by a traffic cop, and then I give him my books. And I sit with him for an hour. So you don't know. You want to give me a ticket? God bless you. Give me a ticket. But listen to me. I have to tell you about this Islamic stuff. And they take my books. It's not for them. It's for the station, for the police officers.
Yeah.
So what can we do? We've got to get educated. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Americans are good people, but they don't have the knowledge because they're not allowed to be told by the media.
Yeah. What really interests me or perplexes me, I guess, is we have so much capacity now to really we have everything at our fingertips. I mean, people have just about every bit of knowledge ever created by man in their pocket. But we are dumber now than we've ever been. People are less informed than they've ever been. They have information, but they don't have knowledge. They don't understand history. They don't understand why things are the way they are.
And the history is directly tied in with the religion.
Yep.
In other words, if you are a Christian, but you don't know what Islam is, then your Christianity becomes weak. And the same applies to the Jewish people. The Jewish people in America are still saying that the Christians are the enemy and the Muslims were our allies in Spain in 1492. Absolutely crazy, absolutely stupid. They don't readjust their sights to understand that things change. And America is not Israel's best friend. America is Israel's only friend.
Yeah. Well, let's do the best we can to get it out to the masses and to the voters and get them educated.
Amen. Well, that's what I've been doing the last 2 months. That's what I've been doing the last 35 years.
What do you want to, let's tell people what your website is.
BiblicalAlliance.com, because the Jews and the Christians, and now I'm adding the Druze. The Druze people are also part of the Biblical Alliance because the Muslims are going to kill them too.
All right, we'll go to Avi's website, BiblicalAlliance.com.
Yes,
And get educated, be informed, and start showing up locally and listening. And let's stop some of this madness.
absolutely. And go to church.
And
Go to church. Learn the Bible, because the Bible of the Jews and the Christians is true.
I don't think there's anything in that Bible that's ever been proved incorrect.
Correct. You're right.
But a lot of people have tried.
Yeah.
But all have failed.
By the way, do we have another minute?
Sure.
My son Aaron has a tour company. Now, I'm not here to do an advertisement for Aaron, but Aaron got into archaeology like a hobby, and he got very close to Professor Adam Zartal, rest in peace. And Adam Zartal was a socialist. He was a member of a kibbutz, and he got blown up in the war in 1973, and he spent the rest of his life on crutches. But he was an archaeologist, and he found Joshua's altar. Now, when you look at Deuteronomy in the book of Joshua, it talks there about 6 tribes on one side and 6 tribes on the other, and they have to listen to the blessings and the curses. Well, that place has been discovered by Adam Zartal. My son took over that ministry after he died, and it's absolutely proving the veracity of the Bible that that place exists and that Joshua existed. You know, people say Joshua didn't exist. There are people say Moses didn't exist. There are people say Jesus didn't exist. But this proves the veracity of the Bible, that Joshua, Moses, they were there, and this altar has all the archaeological proof. Science and archaeology are proving the veracity of the Bible. And so anyone who's listening or following this Zoom that we are doing should look up Lipkin Tours and the altar of Joshua, because the altar of Joshua has been discovered. It's really true. And so anyone who says the Bible is not true should be put in some institution.
Yes, people need to read it and understand it. That's really the only book they need. There's a lot of history there. Just history alone makes it worth understanding. But we appreciate you coming today, Avi, and be careful down there in Midland and or Odessa. And we hope to see you up here in Amarillo soon.
I hope so. Looking forward to it. Come to Israel. Be our guest.
I don't know. It's might be a little hot over there for me.
It's just as bad as Texas.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, Avi. Well, I look forward to it.
God bless you.
You too. Be safe.
Amen.